How China made the Catholic Chinese bishop James Su Zhimin disappear. The faithful bishop of Beijing. James Su Zhimin was born in 1920 in Hebei province, a region with a long history of Catholic faith despite communist hostility. Ordained a priest in the mid-1940s, he quickly became known for his pastoral dedication and unwavering loyalty to Rome. His appointment as Bishop of Beijing was a natural step, reflecting both his spiritual leadership and his courage in the face of increasing oppression. By the 1950s, China's communist authorities were already intent on controlling all religious institutions. Bishops, priests, and devout Catholics were under constant surveillance. The regime demanded absolute allegiance to the state-controlled Patriotic Catholic Association, a puppet church designed to sever Chinese Catholics from the Vatican. Bishop Su refused to bow. His fidelity to the Pope became a thorn in the side of Beijing. The more devout he appeared, the more the authorities feared him. His commitment was not just spiritual, it was a political threat. In the eyes of the regime, loyalty to Rome equaled disloyalty to the state. Early harassment and imprisonment. The persecution of Bishop Su began subtly. He was constantly monitored, harassed, and pressured to accept the Patriotic Church. Meetings with priests and lay Catholics were restricted. Officials would arrive unannounced at his residence, inspecting records and questioning clergy under the guise of legal compliance. When subtle intimidation failed, the regime escalated. Bishop Su was arrested multiple times between the 1950s and 1970s. Each detention involved beatings, interrogation, and confinement in harsh prison conditions. Guards sought to break his spirit through physical abuse and psychological torment. Despite these brutal measures, Su remained steadfast. He refused to acknowledge the Patriotic Association, to betray Rome, or to compromise his faith. Every arrest, every interrogation, reinforced his reputation as a man unwilling to yield to tyranny. His resilience became a symbol for underground Catholics across Hebei province, many of whom risked imprisonment themselves by following his guidance. One request in between: if you've enjoyed this podcast so far, please like it. You would also do us a huge favor if you subscribe to this YouTube channel. It would help us a lot. The disappearance. By the 1990s, Bishop Su had survived decades of harassment and imprisonment, emerging each time as a more respected leader among Chinese Catholics. His perseverance, however, only heightened the Communist Party's determination to silence him. In 1997, Bishop James Su Zhimin vanished. He was taken from his residence under mysterious circumstances. No official record, no charges, no trial, nothing. His disappearance shocked the Catholic community in China and abroad. Since that day, his whereabouts remain unknown. Families, clergy, and the Vatican have sought information, but the Chinese government has remained silent. International human rights organizations have repeatedly raised his case, yet Beijing refuses to acknowledge even the most basic facts: whether he is alive, whether he is imprisoned, or whether he has been executed. The disappearance of Bishop Su is emblematic of a broader pattern in China: the state's ability to remove individuals from public life without accountability, leaving families and communities in fear and uncertainty. Life in the shadows, underground Catholicism. Bishop Su's repeated arrests and ultimate disappearance did not extinguish the Catholic faith in Beijing. On the contrary, his courage inspired clandestine religious communities to persist. Priests secretly ordained by him continued to minister to the faithful. Lay Catholics gathered in private homes, celebrating Mass and sacraments away from the eyes of the authorities. The underground church became a direct challenge to the Communist Party. Every hidden Mass, every whispered prayer, and every secret ordination was a small act of defiance. Bishop Su, even while detained or missing, remained the spiritual center of these communities. China's attempts to eradicate loyalty to Rome only strengthened the resolve of those who refused to accept the Patriotic Church. His life and disappearance became a rallying cry, a proof that faith could not be crushed by intimidation, imprisonment, or erasure. Legacy of courage. Bishop James Su Zhimin's story exposes the cruelty of the Chinese Communist Party toward religious leaders. It reveals a government willing to imprison, harass, and make people vanish, simply because they refuse to betray their faith. His disappearance in 1997 remains a chilling reminder of the regime's reach. No family, no diocese, no international organization has been allowed definitive information about his fate. Yet his courage lives on. Catholics in Beijing and beyond continue to honor him through secret masses, prayers, and remembrance. Young priests, inspired by his example, risk arrest to continue his work. His story reminds the world that tyranny cannot destroy conscience, and that moral authority often resides in those whom oppressors seek to erase. The unseen martyr. Bishop Su's fate may remain unknown, but his impact is unmistakable. Disappeared, imprisoned, or possibly dead, he symbolizes the thousands of clergy in China who have suffered for loyalty to Rome. The regime's cruelty is evident, removing a bishop without trial, leaving communities in fear, and attempting to erase his memory. Yet the Church persists. Faith communities continue clandestine worship, demonstrating that moral truth survives even in the darkest oppression. Bishop James Su Zhimin's life and disappearance are not isolated incidents. They are part of a systematic campaign against conscience, truth, and spiritual freedom in China. His courage endures, silently defying the tyranny that sought to silence him. The world cannot forget. Bishop Su's story is a call to global attention. To forget him is to let tyranny win. Bishop James Su Zhimin's courage, even in the face of repeated arrests and mysterious disappearance, reminds the world that the human spirit cannot be